I kid you not, and I'm not a BSer. My son and I were sitting there because I lived right behind Bell Rock, and we were watching all this with binoculars. And he was facing towards, there's a Circle K and there's a roundabout there. So he was looking towards where we were looking at through binoculars. For about 30 seconds, something opened up behind him. But he was facing towards away from it. And my son and I were like, you had to go, what? You know, but something appeared to open up. So I don't know. Did you see anything or did anything happen while you were there? Because at one point we were supposed to go there and investigate, and then I had to have that toe surgery that came
on. No, we didn't. I purposely didn't go to any of the touristy spots, and I was there on a weekend. So if you can imagine going back downtown and being stuck in traffic, I felt like I was on the 405 freeway during rush hour.
So, okay, yeah, that one road that goes from, I forget the town where Bell Rock is, the name of it. It's actually under Sedona and goes up into West Sedona. Yeah, that road can be crazy. So
yeah, it was bad.
So, but yeah, so you didn't go. Well, if I ever get back out there and you're around, I'll take you to where they're not. This one area is not a tourist spot. This is the real deal. And stuff happens out there all the time. So
okay, that sounds like a plan.
So John, I wasn't able to be on the last show with you, and I know that you guys had talked about your new show that you have on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. And how's that going, by the way?
Well, it's not really a show. Every week we recap a series that I put together with another guy by the name of Keith, that it's called Veritas Obscura, and it's Echo Protocol. And it's about a science fiction version of what Rendlesham was all about. But a lot of what's in it is real. And the crazy thing, because the people that have worked with me on this know that I wrote this before 3i Atlas came on the radar. I actually talked about an interstellar object being involved in all of this, and it was going to come through this time frame right now. And it's kind of crazy how what's in the book, and every week on Thursday night it airs at 5:30 Eastern time on KGRA, and then we do at 7 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday we recap it. It's kind of crazy how this story is paralleling what's going on with 3i Atlas right now. That's what my screen background is. It's the theme song to it's called The Green Veil. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, we're living in, I think, some of the most craziest times probably that have happened here since way back in ancient times. I think there's something shifting right now, and it's going on. And I'm just shocked that this 3i Atlas is getting very little, if any, coverage. And the fact that a few days ago they just came out and said there's something in front of it now that kind of fits and parallels the Hopi prophecy that this would show up, this would show up and start the countdown to the change.
And what do you think the change is going to be, John?
Well, that would be more something you would know, Michelle. We've had off-air talks about different things, including how they blocked me from going to Skinwalker Ranch and stuff. And so the point is that there's a time, I think, right now where what the natives experienced and lived is actually coming back to fruition again, and we're going to the next level. And there was something else that was brought to my attention that hasn't totally been covered yet. But if you go back to the history of the Great Flood, when the Hopi got taken underground, according to what I've been told, and I haven't had a chance because I'm finishing up another book, the sun affected the whole thing. And when 3i Atlas passed, the sun just did now, last week, like a few days ago, it triggered something with the sun, and that's what we're going through right now. We're actually going through the Aurora Borealis that happened big time last night, and it caught everybody off guard because they said it might have gotten down as far as the northern parts of the states, and then you'd have to see it with cameras. It actually was so strong last night, they didn't realize it was going to be like that. It was seen all the way down where you're at in New Mexico right now.
Yeah, tonight, after, we deal with some family stuff tonight, we're going to stay up late. My sister and I, we're going to witness it. So
well, they're saying tonight may not be the night, but last night completely caught them off guard because it was 5 times. Where I was, you could just walk outside and the whole sky had color in it. It was crazy. And they said right before that it wasn't going to happen that way. And they said something happened that they can't even explain. And it just was a massive storm last night. So.
Yeah, wasn't it Bill who said that NASA's not going to even report those things to
me too. They just said that they claimed they couldn't show the pictures or talk about what they saw with 3i Atlas when it passed, I think it was Jupiter, because it was shut down. Well, they're about to open the government back up tonight, and they just reported that NASA's not going to say anything about any of this. And Javi Loeb said that this is all being held back for political reasons. But he didn't clarify what exactly the political part was.
And why, after all that, that the government is now going to open back up?
They're hiding something. I honestly believe, and I don't mean tomorrow we're going to wake up and everything's going to go completely crazy, even though things get crazier by the day. I think we're in a transition period, and I think consciousness is changing right now. And I think a lot of people today have been talking online about how they feel differently, even today. There's something going on right now. And that's like I said with the book that I'm putting out. It'll be available right after Thanksgiving where you can buy it. But I made it available each chapter each week up to Christmas Eve. And the crazy thing was the December 19th is when it's supposed to get the closest to Earth and affect us.
Yes, that's true.
And that's exactly in the time frame of my book.
That is really interesting. We were talking while we were behind the stage saying we're kind of physically feeling something today. A lot of us are tired and unmotivated. And my sister and I came back here to our Airbnb and we rested. I went right to sleep, and I don't do that in the middle of the day. And we're feeling some kind of cosmic tiredness or something's going on.
Well, here's the kicker for me. I've got 3 young cats. And
right.
They've slept the entire day.
It's crazy.
All they've done is ate. They've eaten in the morning and they've slept. They got up and they've eaten just before I came on air, and they're all sleeping again. And those cats are usually terrorizing the house at least half the day. And they are just curled up sleeping right now. And I know, I'd really like to go on what you think is going on with Rendell's from Michelle, because we've had some conversations, but I don't want to drop a surprise on you by what we said in private. So, do you feel like something's going on right now that's going to be cosmic in nature?
Well, I think what I'm seeing just in the past few days is a lot of people are exiting the earth. I'm having friends whose parents have gone or going. I'm dealing with similar things. Not a death yet, but, I'm finding it very, very interesting cosmically. A lot of people are exiting.
Okay. What about you, Jonathan? Did you get any vibes in Sedona up there? I know you didn't go to the spots, but did you get any vibes about there was something kind of weird going on?
Well, me and Stan, where we were staying, we could actually, how you feel when you're sitting at a railroad crossing and the train is going by and you can feel the ground kind of vibrate? That's what it felt like to both of us. And we actually Stan set a cup of water out. I was telling him that Tyrannosaurus was just around the corner and going to make it vibrate. But, as we sat there were ripples that were coming up every now and then. And so there was definitely some sort of vibration at that location where we were staying.
John, I felt that yesterday too. I thought it was like a mini earthquake going on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Feeling
and
vibrations as well.
and I actually feel those all the time, especially when I'm laying down. I
Mhm.
can I can feel something shift, and having grown up in Los Angeles, and been there for the Sylmar earthquake. Um, I know what an earthquake feels like, and I know what something unusual, that you can sense it. So I have been able to sense a lot of earth movement like that.
Right. So
You know, John, what I noticed last night, I was coming in, I got here about 8:30, how pitch black it was last night. I was high beams all the way driving from in the New Mexican rural, on 550 from Farmington to Albuquerque. It was pitch black. And I'm like, where is the moon? And I was talking to one of my friends. She lives there in Utah. And she said, oh, the moon's supposed to come up later. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't come up till about 9:30.
yeah, I had no light hardly. And, I just relied on my car lights. So that was a little bit nerving.
right.
Well, a black boring trip in the dark is nothing to worry about. It's when things happen and you lose time and you see lights and things get weird.
So, can I share this story? Around dusk time, I was coming from Hesperus, Colorado, and I had visited with one of my college friends, and she lives up on a county road that sits on top of a hill. As I was coming down the hill, all of a sudden I look in front of me, and there was a silvery aircraft, and it was I've never seen it before, silvery, and I'm like asking myself, what is that? And I was leaving a message for somebody else on their phone, and I forgot that I was giving them a message, and I was like, what is that? What is that? I got to grab my camera and grab it. And as soon as I went to grab for my phone to take a photo, it disappeared. And at first I thought, am I seeing things or is this aircraft? So I had that cosmic event yesterday, and quite interesting.
Yeah, they're just keeping an eye on you.
Somebody is.
Maybe watching. That was something that, and maybe get you to ask me a few questions, Michelle, but because we've talked before, but when we were up at Skinwalker, Toby Martinez, I, and Warren,
Yeah.
we went up there and we had some stuff happen in the cabin. The first night we checked when we got into the cabin, where the camera actually was sitting there, and we were testing all the equipment because we are going to go out the next night, and the
Right.
camera moved down and it drained the battery. So
Yep.
there was a presence in the cabin, and we weren't that close to Skinwalker. I think we were like 45 minutes to an hour. So put a new battery in, and it seemed to hold up. So that evening, all the equipment came out. We tested everything. And in the morning, made sure everything was charged. We had meters and everything else. And we went out there that night, and all the batteries got drained as the
Right.
stuff started flying around. And I always scoff at people when, like, why didn't you get a picture? Well, it disappeared, or it drained our batteries. Well, it actually did. And we did get some readings from the EM meters for a few minutes, and then it drained. But what was crazy was, this came from Warren, not me. When they got back to Ogden, somebody stole those meters from him.
Oh man.
So there was some data on what was going on that night out there, but it was a crazy show that went on right outside the backside of the ranch, of all kinds of stuff flying around and stuff that night. It was crazy.
Well, John, and you have something very, very true there. When myself and Jim Morris would go and do parameter checks at the ranch on Homestead 2, we took his Denali out there, and we were circling back to come back to Homestead 1. And this is before it got locked down. It was during I think, before the show had began. And he all of a sudden stopped, the car stopped, and all the lights went out, and the headlights, but there was the only lights were the fog lights that worked. And what he had done was blown all the filaments out of his headlights, and we had to go back to Salt Lake, and he had to get them all changed out. So that does happen in many accounts of people's phones draining, equipment draining, cameras draining. So that is so true. The energy, for some reason, just gets drained out, or they don't want us to witness what's there when that happens.
Well, from what I understand, it was a Hopi curse that started all this. Was that right, or was the Hopi cursed? I think it was the Hopi curse, the tribe that was there, right?
No, the romantic story is that there were Navajos that cursed the land up there
Okay.
because the Utes had provided scouts for the U.S. cavalry during the roundup,
Okay.
and but my research has shown that things have been occurring in that area and known all the way back to Fremont times, and that there are a series of ritual sites around that Skinwalker Ranch area that were put there for the reason of holding back whatever was there so it wouldn't come out into the rest of the population. And those sites are anywhere from 500 to 700 years, even 900 years old. So the Navajo curse would have occurred about 1868, and it doesn't account for a lot of the sacred sites around that area.
That was a weird area. It was. I honestly didn't get the vibes up there that I got in Sedona. I just can be straightforward. Sedona was like, living there for 2 years was a ride. It was the magic carpet ride, is what I call it.
Were you purposely wanting to find something, or you?
No. The story with me up there was that I moved up there. My son didn't want to go to the school in the valley, so at the time, Sedona was a decent sized town as far as people. A lot of people were living there more. Now it's turned into a Airbnb place where most people can't afford to live there because the prices have gone so high, and the people that own it rent the houses out. So when we were there, there was a high school, 2 middle schools, and like 3 grade schools, I think it was. Now it's down to the whole school's in the high school. It's just the population's gone. People can't afford to live there, right? So moved up there because that had the highest rating for the whole northern of the state for school, because he was pretty good in academics and stuff. And then once I got up there, I started meeting people that had had experiences in different things, and I got taken to some sites, including some sites that most people don't see, where all the markings are on the walls and the caves and all that other stuff. So I didn't go up there to like meet something or experience anything. I moved up there for that reason, and then that's when all the fun started. I mean, never mind, that was the time the code broke too, and so the code was out there, and did go out and visit the site. So, and that was a weird place. Most people don't know where it's at. We couldn't even figure it out when we first went out there. We got a good reading on it, but everybody that tried to go out there afterwards, they had issues with their GPS. They were having issues getting to that area.
In Sedona, it's really interesting. I had introduced a young man who got a hold of myself. This is years and years ago, requesting to meet Dwayne Ollinger, and I introduced him to Dwayne. And the gentleman was living in his car, and he was investigating sacred sites and also UFO sites. And then the story came back to me that Dwayne made his way down to Sedona, and there was like a vibrational hum. He had an extraordinary experience. He doesn't get explicit about it, but he just says there was a hum, and recounts this wonderful experience he had, but didn't give any details. Have you ever witnessed something like that?
No, well, the big night there was stuff in the sky flying
Mhm.
around all over the top of us, but there was no hum, and there was no, like, I didn't feel like I had an awakening or an experience other than you just couldn't explain what was flying around and what was going on. And there was other nights when we were out there. I can't think of you may know what it is. You were just there, Jonathan. What's the town? You go from Cottonwood, you go up over the mountain, and you go down into Prescott Valley. What is that town? It's a ghost town that sits up there on the mines. What was that town called?
I think that one's Jerome.
Jerome, yeah.
Yeah.
If you sat out in this area that's not a tourist area that most people don't know about, you would see lights almost every time you'd go out there. You'd see stuff flying around Jerome and down, and then would come down into that area. So there's definitely a presence there. Now, the government was there at one point. I don't think it's there anymore. And I can say that with authority because I was with the Air Force in Arizona, and we were responsible for that facility that set out West Sedona.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a facility out there, and part of their job was to monitor low frequencies that were in the area. And there was 2 people that were in the remote viewing program that lived there. And I don't know if they're still alive and they live there now, but they're up on a couple of the mountains that there's some mountain houses up there, and their whole house is nothing but equipment that their job is to monitor the frequencies of what goes on there.
You know, it's really interesting about this 3i Atlas. The interesting thing is I say about maybe 3 weeks ago, I was sitting out on a Saturday and it was cloud cover and there wasn't a nice cool breeze. And all of a sudden I was karaoke with my daughter-in-law. She loves to sing. So we were sitting outside just enjoying the weather and having a nice little tea or soda. And all of a sudden the heat started radiating like heat. And all of a sudden my arm got sunburnt right there. And I called a friend of mine and I said, "What is going on?" She goes, "Oh, I think you just better get inside because there's a sun flare happening right now." And I felt like I was inside of a microwave and I couldn't get cool. And I was like, I got to get in the house. And I had to stand in front of the fan. But I noticed I got sunburned. So people need to be very careful. And these sun flares are coming through because it does affect your body.
It affects everything. But so, do you guys have any questions? I think, Jonathan, last time we got into Rendlesham a little bit. You have any questions for me about Rendlesham and my experiences and stuff like that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you could explain what you experienced in reference to Rendlesham, and we'll go from there.
Well, the interesting thing was that at the time, I've been there almost 2 years, and there was different people that was involved in our 3 nights. There was 3 nights that I was involved with, or 2 of the 3, but there were 3 nights in a row. And there were people there was already weird stuff that was going on in the area. We had a ghost called East End Charlie, and different things that people have seen on that end of the flight line and stuff. But there have been weird things seen in the forest and in the sky before. But from what all the people that were aware of that said, they were told to not report it and leave it alone. And then that Christmas night, which is interesting, this is 45 years later this year, and it falls under the same time, the time thing. So it was on a Thursday night, Christmas night, which will be Christmas night again this year, 45 years later. And we came on duty on the midnight shift at 11. And we, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I was on patrol with my supervisor, and he saw strange stuff in the sky coming into the forest. So we went out to try to see what we could figure out, and it just seemed odd and out of place. So we called it in on the phone, and he sent security down. And then 3 of us went out into the forest because at that point they thought maybe something had crashed because radar confirmed something was over the area and went into the forest. And then we went out into the forest and it played tricks with us for quite a while before we got close to something. And each one of us that were involved remembered differently. And then it went up and it went out into the distance and we chased it for a while and then it was gone. So that was night one. And then night two, the shift commander, it was a new flight. We went on break. So the new flight was on midnight shift and they had an encounter and it actually shut the vehicle down. The shift commander was going over for the event when it was seen. People were seeing it. So she was on her way over. She freaked out and got relieved of duty and she actually got removed from the base. So those stories that went on with her, supposedly, including some people claim now that she actually took a shot at it. Then night three was the big night with Colonel Hall. And that was the night he took a team out there and I ended up meeting up with the team. And that's when Adrian Bustinza and I went forward and I got close to it. And Adrian said I went into it and disappeared. And so a couple things about that is that Adrian and I both had issues with it afterwards. And both him and I have now got a settlement from the government, a VA settlement, admitting that we were injured by it, whatever we had happened to us that night, and we're getting disability for it. And Colonel Halt just did an interview with Russ Colcart, and he even said in that interview, he said Adrian and I were clearly injured by what we encountered.
Did you encounter any loss of time or any type?
First night, our watches were 45 minutes slow. So, but night three, no, there was no like I don't remember like our watches were slow or anything. But when we went in, when we were involved with it, time did seem to slow down. Okay. And pretty sure what we encountered was time dilation, a time dilation bubble. Because if you research time dilation in the bubble, and they're actually utilizing it and working on it now for military application, that would be something that, you know, it could actually be used for even like DARPA's gotten as far as they're working on transferring something from A to B, and all that involves time dilation, plasmas, and UAPs basically. Yeah. So that's the book I'm coming out with in December. It's called Project Rendlesham Crossing the Threshold, and what's going to be in that is describing all the technology we had out there, what they were working on at the time, how it's evolved, how it affected us. And I just finished an exchange with the MOD. And it was one of the most comical things I've ever had happen in my life. So I started out with 4 different agencies and a whole bunch of questions. So they kept coming back and telling me it went over their ability money-wise. I think they can put 26 hours into a particular question or whatever. So they'd say, well, you're asking for too much. This stuff exists, but we're not going to be able to give it to you because of the cost. So narrow your questions down. So I narrowed my questions down to a couple on each, finally, and this went on for 6 months. And the last response back from them on each one was, oh, we don't have any data. So they came from saying that they had overwhelming data on my questions I was asking about the different equipment that would have been there at the time. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Have you ever heard of a Marx generator?
No.
That's one of the things I was focusing on. And it was there outside the back gate at the time. And right after Rendlesham got exposed, the Thatcher government classified the actual generator. And the generator was built off of Tesla technology. And it can be utilized. It can be utilized to affect time dilation bubbles and all that other stuff. And one of the things that I've gotten into with the ufology world, but this is a fact, and they don't know how to answer it totally, is that the Robert Salas incident,
right?
A Marx generator and Sage radar were connected directly to the site that he was in that was affected in what they saw. And the thing is they didn't see like a metallic object or a craft. They saw what you would classify as a UAP or orbs. And this particular generator has been advanced. In fact, when the infancy generator was first built? Any ideas?
Yeah.
It came online right before the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's pretty clear that it was involved. The Philadelphia experiments experiment really did probably happen. And they've been messing around with these generators and this different technology and studying what they've now classified UFOs as UAPs, this type of plasma technology or whatever, which if you go to Condyne and look at it, Condyne admits it's real and it has intelligence in nature. It can do things that we can't explain or whatever else, and it could tie directly into interdimensional travel.
And it's
Yeah, in my career,
yeah.
I've had a number of missing time experiences. Usually they're about 30 minutes in duration. And I had one involving that same time dilation where I gained 45 minutes of time and couldn't explain it for the longest time. When I blinked, I was at one location. When I opened my eyes, I was 15 miles down the road. And but I arrived at my destination 45 minutes early, and I have no explanation for it. The time formulas, Johnny went, if he was traveling this many miles an hour over this much time, I would have had to been going, a couple of 100 miles an hour to get there. And I just don't have an explanation until this last summer. I was in Alamosa, Colorado at the Snippy conference, and somebody came up to me and they said, "You teleported." And so far, that's the only explanation I have for that incident, was that I was teleported from one location to the next. And that sure beats the explanation of crossing the threshold of microscopic black hole, the event horizon. So, um, so far that answer kind of resonates with me.
John, in your estimation, with Rendlesham, also in with Native American lore and these, do you believe that Rendlesham is a sacred area, similar to what you found with the Hopi areas, the areas that are where portals exist? Do you feel like Rendlesham was one of those, or do you feel like some technology was involved? Oh wow, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Did he mute himself?
I think so. There he is.
What happened?
Well, my computer activated. I've got a lot of safety nets, and it said something
Okay.
just tried to access my computer, and it denied access to it. And then
Wow.
all of a
That's
sudden
crazy.
the mic acted up. But your question is this: it goes back to Rendlesham, okay, and it goes back to two facets. Number one, it started at 3 a.m. We probably didn't go into the forest until after 3:30, between 3:30 and 3:45.
Okay.
From where we were at the gate, and we drove a little bit. We went down probably half a mile in a vehicle. From where we got out of the vehicle and where we ended up before we turned around and came back, and we were back on site by around 5:15, somewhere in there. I can't remember exact time now. But we could never, because we went back and walked the route in 18. We could never have gotten from where we started there and back in time. And under my hypnosis, I start talking about walking. We were walking back, and we didn't even recognize anywhere where we were or how we even got there. So there clearly was something there. Now, yes, it's a sacred site. In the weaponization book that James Worrell and I did in 2020, and a guy by the name of Wayne Keach was involved in, he did a whole chapter on the research on top of other stuff. There is an ancient burial ground out there. And it's a Saxon burial ground. And part of the title of the book is The Home of the Shield. If you go online and Google Rendlesham Forest,
Yeah.
it's a sacred area, and it's called the Home of the Shield. There's a protective force out there. And this is research that shows it. And there's an ancient burial ground. And when we were out there in that area, that was where we remembered, or I remember being at the end before we started coming back, which was right on the coastline. They took a bunch of pictures, and there was some kind of weird orbs all in the ground and around me in the pictures he took with this camera and stuff. So there is clearly an ancient area, a burial ground out there. And what most people aren't aware of, at the time, there was a sanctioned government project going on. His name was Andrew Pike. He wrote a book about it. They were there studying UAPs and this phenomenon that was there. And in his book, he even admits that the incident then took place and they crossed together into something crazy. So that area is well known for having weird activities going on, just like, say, Skinwalker Ranch, Sedona, and some of the other areas.
Yeah, there's a parallel, the 37th parallel. I do believe that a lot of this stuff takes place around the world that's tied into that parallel vortex. And people have tried to study it, but these things are so random. But it apparently also, looking at it from a sacred place that were burials, ancient, Fremont Native Americans, Hopi lore. I mean, there is just so much out there we don't know that our ancestors knew.
Well, Jonathan, you guys were aware that was a main travel route for the Native Americans through Sedona, right? And there's just down the road from Sedona, there's a major burial ground down there.
Okay.
Like Montezuma, isn't it called Montezuma? Or what is it called? It's a major.
Montezuma's Castle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they lived in the cliffs above Sedona. And were you guys aware at one time Sedona was a huge lake? Yeah, go back and study. Way back in ancient times, that whole area was a lake. And the natives lived up in those mountains that sit above, up there in the caves above.
Right.
I know that in Utah, the Bonneville Lake was an ancient lake that spread across Idaho, Montana, Utah, maybe as far as where Arizona goes, because
Sedona was underwater for the most part of it. It was a valley, it was underwater, and then it switched to a desert. And that's part of the thing that people don't even realize. The earth has made major changes, over thousands of years. And what was desert was lush, maybe even tropical at some points. And that was a major area where the natives, they stayed there in the summer and then they traveled south towards the Phoenix area in the winter to get out of the mountains for the winter. So there's all kinds of burials and caves. Have you guys ever seen the caves and some of the glyphs that are in there and stuff?
I haven't been up there.
So yeah, it's amazing what's there. I mean, if you ever want to go to an area where you actually have a chance of something happening or experiencing something, that is the area I would recommend. In fact, Jonathan, I hope someday we can get back there together, and plus I'd like to get up on Hopi again. I'm hoping that the Hopi connection can get me up there. He blew his knee out this summer, so he's just recovering from knee surgery. But hopefully, maybe next spring can get up there. I'd like to go back up on Hopi because we had weird experiences up there when I went up there.
So John, with your Rendlesham experience, and I know I'm asking a lot of questions, did it consciously change you in any way that it heightened your sense of connecting to the I must say cosmic intelligence of that sort? I mean, do you feel like there was a change in you?
Not right away. In fact, it was the whole thing. I was just a young airman, and there was a lot of, I guess you call it politics or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
The wing people got involved, the higher ups got involved. I was just a little peon that got called in, wrote a statement and told, we'll let you know if we need anything, don't call us, we'll call you. And I did go back out and see some more stuff because they put me on a particular gate where all this stuff was going on. But ultimately, I went on my way. I was told to keep my mouth shut. They let me know if I needed anything. So I did. I went on. I left the base, went to my next base. Nothing the whole time I was there. Got to Arizona, and that's when News of the World broke. And that's when everything changed for me in my life because everybody started chasing me about stories. CNN showed up and everything else. But it wasn't until years later that I started feeling differently, that I started feeling more of a connection. But at first, no, I'm not going to try to make this all of a sudden I changed and all that. But I do feel differently now. And Toby Martinez believes that I can bring him in. I think you said the same thing, didn't you? You think I have a connection or something?
Yeah, when I was with Warren and Toby, I think it was 2 summers ago, and then we had our experiences up there in the Uinta Basin, not necessarily near Skinwalker, but in the Uinta Basin. They told you about the event that happened with.
Yeah. That was. Let's just say your guys' experience was crazier than what happened to us at Skinwalker, from what I've had.
Yeah. In fact, it was so unnerving to Warren that he stopped the car and he jumped down and says, "What is happening? What is happening?" And then, of course, there's a deer in the middle of the road staring us down, which is not the behavior of a deer. It was like it was looking right through us, all of us, and I was able to have some bitter root with me, and I administered to all of them until everybody could calm down. It wasn't a fearful thing. It was just unnerving to see this deer. Their characteristic of just standing in the road and staring us down is not characteristic of that animal life.
Well, it's unnerving when you can't explain it.
Exactly.
And what makes it even harder is like when you see something you can't explain, you don't know how to deal with it. And then how are you even going to get anybody to accept it or believe it? And the thing to me is, and I'm holding back a little bit right now, but
yeah, I know you are.
no, well, in 2 different ways, but one way is I got a funny feeling I may be in Sedona this Christmas.
Okay.
There's something I think, and again, I'm not talking about the great flood's going to hit between now and Christmas, or there's going to be, everything's going to collapse.
Right.
But I think people are going to be affected and there's going to be a change in a lot of people. And I think it's starting now, and I think it's going to go forward in the next few months. And there's just things going on with our government, and I'm not trying to get political now. I'm talking about why are they holding back data on 3i Atlas? Why are things like that are going on that just don't add up? Javi Loeb's out there saying they're hiding data. They're not denying it. They're not. Even the world governments are holding back because there was other governments in Europe, and the European Union got shots of the 3i Atlas, and they're not releasing the data. So, I think that it's going to be very interesting up in Arizona, period, to including going up into the reservation area. And I'm really possibly may go out there the week before Christmas.
John, can you quickly talk to the audience and us about what were some of these prophecies relating to modern times today that you can speak? I'm not
an expert on it, and I think Jonathan probably knows more. But one of the things that the prophecy said was up would be down, down would be up. People are losing their minds with biological, what they are, what they, they're those kind of crazy things that are going on. And I'm not trying to blast on anybody's beliefs or how they feel or they identify, but a lot of that stuff that's going on right now was predicted in the prophecy, that people would start, would lose track of their being, what they are, who they are, how they react, the evil that's going around the world right now, and the way people are treating each other, and animals and everything else. You know, those are some of the things that are going on. Yeah, I don't have the prophecy list in front of me, but I bet, Jonathan, you know more about it than I do. But there's a lot of things that the prophecy said, and including that was going to be when the blue star would reappear.
Yeah.
The blue star Kachina. Now, I've also been told, and I can't verify this because I don't have access to the dances, but two things are going on in Hopi. The dances are dying, which is part of the prophecy. They're having a harder time to have the dances and the dancers. And the fact is that the blue Kachina removed its mask. Now, the thing that I had happened to me, which has happened to me when I was taken up on the third mesa, was I had, and again, people will probably think I'm making this up, but I was with the Hopi elder, and the blue Kachina dancer appeared right in front of us. Just there he was.
Love it.
And he gave us a root, and I don't know what the root was, but they talked in Hopi. He gave me one. He gave him one. They spoke in Hopi, and then the dancer was gone. And then, and what was crazy was two things that set out to me about this that was crazy. Number one, when you go up that road to go up to the mesa, have either one of you been on that road?
Yes.
Okay. No white people, no cameras, no nothing.
Right.
This mesa. I was a white guy, and when I got up there, no one acted like I was out of place.
Right.
But what's crazy about it was they do a series of dances, and there's three in a time. I got there towards the end of the first dance, and I was only allowed to see the next two in that series. And I was immediately had to get down from the roof, and that's when the blue Kachina dancer, blue Kachina, appeared, gave me the root. Then we left immediately from the mesa, went back down to his village, which was down off the mesa, and we spent the rest of the day there and then part of the next day for all the different dances. When we got back to Sedona, he told me to plant the root in the backyard. And he left me there and went home. He called me a couple hours later and said, "Have you planted the root yet?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Go plant it." All right. What's the big deal? I mean, I didn't mean I wasn't going to do it, but it was like vital. So I planted the root. A half an hour later, there were a whole bunch of blue orbs in my son's room, and a big red orb tried to come through the walls. And they attacked it and drove it out. It's really happened. After that, they wanted my son, they brought him up the next series of dances the next summer, because I went up right at the end of the dances, and they brought him up at the beginning of the dances. And again, I can't prove this, but this is what happened. They took him to the prophecy rock, and they allowed him to climb on the rock and be around the rock. And then they talked to him away from me, and he would not tell me what they asked or what went on. Then they took him over for the dances in this particular village, not on the mesa, and the entire day was focused on him. And the very last dance, you know how they throw out gifts to the crowd?
Yep.
Yeah.
All the gifts were given to him, and he sat with the elders. I wasn't allowed to sit with the elders.
But he was.
He was. He sat in the row of the elders. I had to sit next to them in the row over.
Hey, you know what, John? This has been a wonderful show, and thank you for your knowledge and for sharing your true stories. And we got to wrap up. I mean, I don't know where the time went with you, but it did, and it was fascinating. I'm getting messages. We got to wrap up. So,
and we're going to have to bring you back again,
yeah,
John.
absolutely.
We're just barely scratching the surface.
And Jonathan and Michelle, if I come out at Christmas time, I know it's Christmas time, I'll let you know. Maybe we can meet up.
Okay.
I'm not saying I am. I'm not saying I am yet. But every day I get stronger feelings I need to be out there. So we'll see what happens.
Also,
Yeah,
you got to come on with the Paranormal Rangers once your book is out, and you can let everybody know what's in the book, because I know there's going to be a lot of information in that book that people will be very interested in seeing and reading.
Right, and I'll get you guys a copy of the book before that so you can read it.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys.
You bet.
Thanks for being here.
Right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Hey guys, we've got to jump off. We're supposed to be on another show.
No,
Go,
that's
do
fine.
your thing.
That's great. Thanks,
Okay.
guys.
See you
And if
next
I don't
week.
see you,
Talk soon. I'll call you soon.
all right.
Alrighty.
Thanks. Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
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 All right, we are clear off the network. I just got to make sure I have everything running for tonight. It looks good. For a little while, at least. I'll finish it later. All right, I got to download this show for audio archive. And hello to everybody on TikTok. This is New York. Well, not New York City, but New York. All right, hold on. I've got to get my bearings here. Why is it not coming out? Oh, there it is. Download audio. This is work related, so I got to do it right away. And then I'm going to have to reboot because the camera won't work on my end seeing me because I have to reboot because the camera was being used on the live stream. I jumped on at the end because he's got a really important book coming out. And I definitely wanted to get that in there and have him come back with them. Because there's going to be a lot of interesting information in that book. Oh shit, I downloaded that already. That's interesting. We got to wait for this one. All right, now I got to bring TikTok over here so I can see what the heck I'm doing. This goes back over here. That was, oh no. Somebody's calling my phone. Oh my God. You're kidding me. Oh shit, John. What? Yeah.
Real fast.
Yes.
You sent this to me during the show.
Uh-huh.
It's just breaking. Hawaiian Observatory records an unknown object orbiting Jupiter.
What?
Yeah, I was going to try. I just was going to let you know. I'm going to send it to you. I don't know if it's real, if it's AI generated, but he sent me this thing, and there's a picture. It looks like they have an object that's orbiting Jupiter right now.
You know something? I read something that there was an unknown object, but I didn't know it had to do with Jupiter. I'm gonna have to look into that more. But he's in a casino in Indiana, so he's gonna send me the show file for next week, Friday. So it might just be you and I, but I'm gonna see if I can get the Padre or Commander on the show with us.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we'll have fun. We didn't do it for 2 weeks. We got a lot to talk
Exactly.
about, so.
All right, listen. Have a great night.
Yeah, hey, and let
Yes.
me know if you see anything weird on your Skywatch.
I will. Right now, it's just ordinary. I don't think there's going to be a big storm because I think they downgraded it. That maybe it'll be a G2, G3.
Okay.
Anyway, I'll let you know.
I'll talk to you on Saturday.
All right. Bye.
Later, bye.
Okay. Oh my gosh. This is how it is. Anyway, where was I? I refresh now. Frozen? It shouldn't be frozen. That could be a Rumbler Nation thing. Not sure about that. TikTok looks like it's working fine. Let me get all this in organized because I'm a mess on my end. I streamed to 10 platforms just now. Can you imagine that? 10. 4 with the stations. What the heck is that? Oh, that's the Bishop. Oh my gosh. What's up, KJ? Oh, just crazy. Just carrying the audio for the show on here. And what's even crazier now is I'm still trying to get everything organized here. And that's not easy. I've never done that before. That was a first. So what I got to do now is technically TikTok. I have to end the stream and reboot it because my camera's not going to work on the screen. I don't think it will. No, it's not. Because I have to stop it. It was a conflict. Oh, this is serious multitasking. So for those on all the platforms, I'm going to stop. I'll be back in 1 minute.